Have you ever wondered why we're told to pray and ask God for things if He already knows what we need before we ask? Check this out. Don't worry about anything. On the contrary, make your requests known to God by prayer and petition. Don't worry about anything? I mean, anything at all. With all the things that we deal with in life, all of the circumstances that come up, kids getting sick, things breaking down, not being able to pay bills, don't worry about anything, but instead make your request known by prayer and petition to God. Now, this is an interesting verse because the base concept here is fairly clear. Don't worry, pray instead. But why? Right? God already knows what I need. In fact, I might even argue that God knows what I need better than I do, and the things that I may pray for may not even be the right things to pray for. So, to unpack this, we have to start by looking at what worry is. So, in its most simplistic form, worry is your brain trying to create certainty about the future, which is always uncertain. And it usually does this by presenting all of the worst possible scenarios that it can come up with in order to get you to act. Because our base programming is designed for survival. So when we're presented with a situation that we don't have a solution for, and that situation has any type of appearance of threat, then your brain immediately goes into overdrive, trying to get you to take it seriously by presenting you with all of the worst possible scenarios, which is great when you need to get out of the way of a bus. It's not so great when you're dealing with a complex situation that requires creativity and calm to deal with. Okay, so now let's talk about what prayer is. So we tend to define prayer as talking to God, but there's a deeper reality to what prayer actually is. So you have to think about this. In our life, we are trained by the material, which means when something happens that needs to be attended to, if I'm hungry, I go get something to eat. If I'm thirsty, I go get something to drink. If I need money to pay for something, I go find work or I go borrow money from someone. We're trained in this material world to go and handle material problems with a material approach. And because we learn that we can get results in the material world by taking a material approach to things, we begin to define our reality by the things that we can see, smell, taste, touch, hear, right? But prayer is an act of defiance of this reality. Every time we pray and request something from God, we have, in effect, said that what I see in this reality, the material approach to things, is lesser than approaching the reality that God lives in. His reality is greater than our reality. That's what prayer is. Every time we pray, we are subordinating our reality to His reality. And so when you put these two things together, worry and prayer, what you get is a change of where we look for our certainty. You see, our brain looks to the material to try and solve whatever the problem is. That's the immediate approach. But when we respond in prayer and we go and we petition the Lord for the things that we need, in that moment, we are shifting our certainty. We are shifting where we look for our certainty from what we can accomplish with our own hands in the material to what God can accomplish with His hands from the spiritual. Now, it's important to pay attention to two things in this verse that goes beyond just the correlation between worry and prayer. Paul says to make your requests known with prayer and petition, with thanksgiving. Now, that word petition means an urgent plea. So it's not just prayer. It's not just going to the Lord and throwing up a casual prayer. You need to treat your approach to the Lord in the same way that your brain treats the seriousness of the thing that's going on in the world. You see, your brain is taking this reality very seriously. So when we go to the Lord in prayer, particularly for something that has brought us worry, we need to approach him with the same level of urgency and seriousness. We need to give him the same level of seriousness that our brain is giving this material reality. However, it needs to be in the context of thanksgiving. And there are two parts to Thanksgiving. One part of Thanksgiving is thanking God for everything that we already have. It is approaching things from a position of gratefulness. Because in gratefulness, we can be grateful for what we have while simultaneously desiring more. It's the difference between content and discontent. We often think that the polarity to discontent, if I'm feeling discontent, is to get to a place of contentment. But that's wrong because in contentment, we have no reason to aspire to more. We're content. But in gratefulness, we can be thankful for what we have while also aspiring for more. And so when we approach the Lord with these prayers and petitions, we want to approach him with thankfulness for what we have, but also with the aspiration for him to show up in greater measure. Now, the other half of thankfulness is that when we petition him, we want to petition him with thankfulness, knowing that he already knows what we need before we asked. And so our request, even though it is an urgent plea for something, the urgency of that plea, the approach to God isn't because he doesn't know what we need. It isn't because our approach is what is somehow going to activate the thing coming. That's not the point. The point is to subjugate our reality to his reality, but doing so with the assuredness that he is our Father and he already knows what we need. And whatever it is that we need has already been granted. It may not be what we asked specifically, because we don't always get what we ask, because God is a good God. And thankfully, he doesn't give us everything we ask for, because a lot of times we ask like idiots because we're human beings and we don't have any clue what we're doing here. But what we can be assured of is that he will move on our behalf. He will move on our behalf. It may not be exactly the way that we envisioned him moving or the way that we want him to move, but we can always be confident that he will move on our behalf. And the process of going to him in prayer and in petition is the thing that counters worry, because it is translating where we are placing our certainty from what we can see with our eyes and what we can accomplish with our hands to what he can accomplish from his throne.